Welcome to Recap Lounge. Today we will discuss the action comedy called Snatch. There are spoilers ahead. The movie opens with Turkish, a boxing promoter and his partner Tommy, sitting anxiously in front of an unknown individual in London. Turkish provides a quick explanation of where he's from and how long he knows Tommy. He says he was a happy boxing promoter until a week ago and asks, "What do I know about diamonds?" as he tells the story. We then travel to Antwerp, where four men are disguised as rabbis, led by a compulsive gambler named Frankie Four Fingers, pulls off a daring robbery and steal an 86-carat diamond. One of Frankie's guys directs him to his brother, stating that he can get a gun from him in London. At the same time, Turkish and Tommy are gearing up for a huge bout with their top fighter, Gorgeous George. Turkish turns his attention to the caravan, unhappy to conduct business in such a deplorable setting. He advises Tommy to buy a caravan from a group of gypsies. Tommy runs the slot machine business as cover for the illegal boxing. He has become overprotective and purchased a gun from Boris the Blade, also known as Boris the Bullet Dodger, because of his ability to escape death. We then see Boris's brother telling him about the 86-carat diamond. He advises that he sent Frankie to buy a gun. He wants Boris to steal the diamond, but he doesn't want it to trace back to him. He tells Boris to hire someone to rob Frankie instead. He also mentions that Frankie loves to gamble. Frankie calls Avi, a businessman who can sell the diamond. He directs him to his cousin Doug the Head. Avi also instructs Frankie to stay away from gambling because of his addiction. Frankie then meets with Boris. Boris is in the business of selling guns on the black market. In exchange for the gun, Boris asks Frankie to place a bet for him on a boxing match because he knows the fight is fixed. Frankie agrees as he can't resist any form of gambling. Tommy travels to the campsite with George. They meet with Mickey O'Neill, an unknown bare-knuckle fighter. They struggle to understand Mickey because of how he speaks. Tommy purchases the caravan, but as they leave, the wheels of the caravan breaks off. Tommy asks for the money back, but Mickey refuses. George steps in to fight and Mickey reacts, but his mother tries to stop him. She is quickly removed from the situation. He offers to fight George for the money and George agrees. They have a bare-knuckle fight and George begins throwing punches while Mickey is still trying to take off his shirt. George charges again and Mickey lands a devastating blow that knocks out George. Boris walks into Vinny and Sol's pawn shop and offers them a job worth £50,000 to hold up a bookies and take a suitcase from a man with 4 fingers. He does not mention the contents of the suitcase. Sol agrees to the deal. We then see Frankie with Doug discussing the value of the smaller diamonds. Frankie mentions that he is in a rush to make the bookies. We then return back to Vinny and Sol. They hire a getaway driver called Tyrone, who is so big he can't get out of the vehicle. Frankie parks his van in front of the bookies and jumps in the back to change. The pawnbrokers then smash into his van, knocking him out. The dog in the car is continuously chewing and biting things, and it even eats a squeaky toy, which makes a sound every time it barks. Tommy informs Turkish about the horrible news, but also about Mickey's vicious left cross. Turkish has a serious problem with George now out of the fight. Turkish thinks and considers Mickey as a replacement. He meets with Mickey and asks if he will do the fight. Mickey agrees to fight provided that Turkish buys his mother a new caravan. Bricktop is furious that George is unable to fight because all the bets are placed on him. He is unimpressed by the replacement but agrees to let Mickey compete in George's place if he takes a dive in the 4th round. Back in New York, Avi is questioning Doug about Frankie's whereabouts. Doug says he doesn't know where he is. Avi goes on to mention why they call him Frankie Four Fingers. Because he makes stupid bets and can't pay, so they give him the chop. Avi then flies to London and confronts Doug face to face. He says he's going to find Frankie himself. Vinny and Sol leave to rob the bookies because they saw a man with a briefcase enter. When they enter they pull their weapons. The woman behind the counter activates the alarm, sealing off all windows and doors and locking them inside. Vinny gets stuck in the shuttered window. Sol shoots a hole in the wall and threatens the woman to lower the window so Vinny can escape. When she does, Vinny collapses, and Sol asks the woman to give up the money. She says there is no money because all bets have been cancelled. There was some coins and when Sol puts down his gun to check the coins, the woman snatches the gun, fires at them, and shuts the window. Sol shoots at the door in an attempt to shatter the glass, but the bullet ricochets and Vinny thought that the bullet hit him in his thigh. They remove their masks, only to find the surveillance camera above them. Tyrone then opens the door, and the three sprint back to the vehicle. As they get ready to leave, Tyrone sees Frankie getting out of his van. He knocks him out and tries to take the briefcase, but it's chained to his hand, so he takes Frankie with them. Meanwhile, Turkish is concerned about the fight and keeps telling Mickey to go down in the 4th round. Mickey just nods. When the fight starts, the opponent headbutts Mickey and as a result, Mickey knocks him out with one punch. Bricktop gets upset, while Turkish and Tommy looks worried and Mickey laughs. Bricktop leaves in a rage. Boris walks into the pawn shop to find Frankie tied to a chair. He asks why they didn't chop off his arm to get the case. Boris offers £10,000 for the job because there was no money at the bookie but Vinny refuses, stating they want half of the diamond instead. Boris explains that everything in the briefcase is his, but Vinny refuses and mentions Boris's name out loud forcing Boris to shoot Frankie. He is angry, but he keeps his cool. They are now terrified of the situation. Boris wants the diamond, but they have returned it to the briefcase, and only Frankie knew the combination. Boris calmly takes out a cleaver and chops off Frankie's arm. He grabs the briefcase, still holding the arm, and informs them that they may keep the 10,000 pounds and dump what's left of Frankie. Turkish goes home to discover Bricktop waiting for him, with 2 of his men. He informs Turkish that he is in big trouble, but he is pleased with Mickey's performance and wants the gypsy in his next fight, but he still needs to go down in the 4th round. Turkish agrees, and Bricktop departs, but not before stealing the majority of Turkish's money to pay for the failure. He then tells his men to find the people that robbed the bookies. They watch the surveillance footage. They don't know Sol or Vinny, but when Tyrone opens the door, one of the men recognizes him. Turkish and Tommy return to the campsite and discover Mickey and his buddies are enjoying a pastime in which hungry dogs chases a hare. Turkish asks Mickey to fight again. He informs Turkish that he still wants the caravan for his mother, but he'll bet regarding the fight. Turkish must pay if the hare escapes, but if the dogs catch the hare, Mickey will fight for free. They release the hare, and the dogs pursue it. This scene is cut with Bricktop's men finding Tyrone before placing him in a pit with furious dogs. He gives Bricktop the whole story of the robbery. At the same time, the hare escapes. Turkish must now arrange a caravan for Mickey. On their way back to town, Tommy tests the pistol that Boris sold him, but it won't shoot, which results in Tommy wanting to see Boris. Back at the pawnshop, Vinny and Sol are attempting to dispose of Frankie's body when Bricktop enters. He explains to them the best way to get rid of a body, which none of them find pleasant. He then takes them to another office, where a number of men wait with body bags to dispose of them. Avi is fed up with Doug because he can't find Frankie. A woman mentions Bullet-Tooth Tony, who was shot 6 times and lived. Avi is amazed by Tony and wants to hire him. Back at the pawnshop, Sol, desperate to live, informs Bricktop about the diamond and claims that he and Vinny can get it for him in 4 days. Bricktop agrees, but only gives them 48 hours and let them go. Tony hears everything about the job and decides to work for Avi, and the two set off to gather information with Avi's sidekick, Rosebud. Tony calls a conman named Mullet to the car. He requests information on the bookie's robbery, locks his head in the window, and drives. He gives up everything he knows and spills the beans about Vinny and Sol. At the pawn shop, Tony has a gun to Vinny's head. Vinny explains that it was all Boris the Blade's idea. Tony is taken aback by the name and tells Avi about him. Turkish informs Bricktop of the demands for the next fight. He claims Mickey's mother wants a new caravan. Bricktop is upset that Turkish has the audacity to make demands, so he makes an example of him. Some of his men destroy Turkish's slot machines. He knocks 2 of them out, but they eventually get him down. At the same time, he has Mickey's mother's caravan set on fire with her still inside. Mickey attempts to help her, but they stop him because it's too late to save her. They are about to cut off his arm when Tommy enters with his useless gun and rescues Turkish, fooling them. After the fire, Turkish apologizes to Mickey, but Mickey doesn't blame him. Mickey reflects and advises that he will fight to keep the peace. Avi and Tony is wondering how they're going to find Boris. At the same time, Boris is seen on the surveillance camera entering Doug's jewelry store to sell the diamond. Rosebud dislikes Russians and says he will take care of Boris. The following scene shows them in the car, all bruised. It was a struggle, but they managed to capture Boris and place him in their trunk. They travel to Boris's place to get the diamond. At the pawn shop, they couldn't find firearms, so Sol buys replicas with blanks. The phone rings and Tyrone tips them off that he found Boris and they rush over. Avi and Tony finds the diamond, as Vinny and Sol pulls up and discovers that Boris is not alone. So they wait for them to come out and decide to follow them. There's a car montage that follows. Turkish and Tommy are driving in their Land Rover. Then Avi wants to know how they're going to get rid of Boris. Rosebud says he'll cut him. Then Vinny asks if the guns fire. So Sol fires the gun in the car and all the windows shatters. In the commotion, they then knock a man in the road. Then Tommy's explaining why Turkish should not drink milk and throws it out the window, only to hear a crash. Tony says he have a better knife to use at the back. Rosebud pulls out a sword as a carton of milk splashes on the windscreen, causing them to crash. You hear Boris complaining in Russian as he gets out of the trunk. Avi looks up after the crash and sees Boris walking across the street with his hands bound and a bag over his head just before getting knocked by Tyrone. Tony and Avi are alright, but Rosebud did not make it. Many people arrive as they get out of the car. Vinny and Sol hide and wait to follow them. They stroll into a bar to clean up. Avi takes the diamond to the restroom. Tony walks up to the bar and orders a pint. Turkish and Tommy have arrived at Boris's place, and Tommy is prepared to get his money back for the gun. As Boris passes them, he racks Tommy, enters his home to get a rifle and walks back out, wanting revenge. Wearing masks, Vinny, Sol and Tyrone enter the bar. Sol and Vinny aim their guns at Tony, demanding the diamond. Tony remains calm and talks a big game and insults them continuously. He states that it says replica on the side of their gun, aware that they are fake. He then brings their attention to his gun, which says Desert Eagle, and simply tells them to leave. They decide to leave out of fear, but while they are in the hallway, Avi opens the bathroom door. They point their replicas again and ask for the diamond. Avi says they will have to shoot him for it. Boris storms in, cocking his gun, and threatens to kill everyone. Tony is in a different room, but he can hear everything. He discovers that the hall door is locked and calls for Avi to drop down. They all drop to the ground as Tony fires multiple rounds through the wall, hitting Boris. Vinny and Sol gets up, takes the case and makes a getaway, leaving Tyrone behind. Tony enters the corridor, reloads, and shoots Boris a couple more times. Boris, on the other hand, is still alive despite being shot multiple times. It takes a full clip and one to the head to finally kill Boris. Tony attempts to shoot Tyrone as well, but his gun is empty. Vinny and Sol are preparing to offer the diamond to Bricktop as Tony and Avi arrives. Vinny hides the diamond in his jeans and Sol tells them it's at the pawn shop. At the same time, Mickey gets intoxicated at his mother's wake after the funeral and not thinking of the fight. Vinny's dog has completely destroyed the pawn shop when they returned, shredding papers and defecating on the floor. Tony is told to open a window by Avi. Vinny pretends to look for the diamond and can't find it. He then says the dog must have eaten it. Avi instructs Tony to open the dog. Tony reluctantly tries when Avi becomes impatient and wants to do it himself. After much fuss, Vinny eventually gives over the diamond. While Avi confirms it's real, the dog grabs the diamond. Avi grabs the gun and starts firing everywhere. The dog jumps out of the window. He rushes to chase the dog and tells Tony to hurry. He realizes that he has accidentally shot Tony during the commotion. In light of his current situation, Avi immediately flees back to New York. Back at the campsite, Turkish and Tommy are trying to prepare Mickey for the fight, but he is hungover. Before the fight, Bricktop tells the gypsy to do what he says because a group of armed men are waiting at the campsite, ready to kill his friends if Mickey doesn't go down in the fourth round. When the fight starts, Mickey opens with a left cross, which knocks his opponent down but doesn't knock him out. Turkish and Tommy is in disbelief and Bricktop is unimpressed yet again. His opponent gets up eventually and Mickey seems to be complying and takes a lot of punishment. Between rounds, Turkish stresses with Mickey to not knock him out. In the fourth round, Mickey is finally knocked down after taking some hard hits. All Mickey has to do now is stay down. However, he gets up and with one rapid punch, he knocks out his opponent. Bricktop leaves angry, while Turkish gets Mickey and leave immediately. He phones his men and you can hear a gunshot. He hangs up, as Turkish, Tommy and Mickey rush to their car. Bricktop intends to get rid of them. He knocks on his car window and asks for a gun. Suddenly, there's a shot and the scene freezes with Turkish and Tommy pulling weird faces but not Mickey. We trace back with Turkish explaining what happened, that Mickey was anticipating the attack on the campsite because he found it strange that Mickey took his mother's death lightly. The other gypsies surrounds Bricktop's men and eliminates them. Mickey's friend answers Bricktop's call and informs him he will need to speak up if he wants his men to hear him, as he eliminates the last one. The gypsies are also waiting in Bricktop's car, and when he asks for a gun, the gypsies roll down the window and shoots him. Mickey runs off with the gypsies, leaving Turkish and Tommy a little dumbstruck. The following day, Turkish and Tommy travel to the campsite, where they find it abandoned. The gypsies fled in the middle of the night. Some police officers approach them and ask Turkish what they are doing there. Suddenly, Turkish notices a dog and tells the officer he is giving his dog a walk. Tommy snatches the dog and they leave. They pass by Vinny and Sol with their car on the side of the road, being questioned by authorities about why they have a dead guy missing an arm in their trunk. Turkish goes on to say that Tommy wanted to keep the dog, so Turkish forced him to go to the vet to stop the squeaking. While at the vet, they found the diamond in the dog's stomach. Turkish asks who will be interested, and Doug says he knows someone. As Avi immediately boards a plane. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos.